It's time for Screen Junkies Movie Fights.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Movie Fights. Hoot, hoot.
Hoot, hoot.
Owl Nation. Hashtag where my gahooligans at. Hoot, hoot. Welcome to Movie Fights, everybody. Welcome, Owl Nation. Welcome to this awesome group of fighters that is ready to throw down at our semicircle table here and make it happen. First up, he's the fastest mouth in the West from Collider Heroes. Welcome back, JANDREAU. Coy, I know you're still licking your wounds over that Conor McGregor fight this weekend.
I had a Conor shirt I almost wore today, but I thought I didn't need to antagonize the internet further. I'm suffering. I definitely want to defend my boy's honor, and I'm gonna win today for the homeland.
Thank you for being here, and that will be the extent of our MMA talk today.
Conor McGregor, a huge fan of the movie fights.
Oh, of course.
He's watching right now.
Yes.
All of Ireland watches this show.
Yeah, those are actual fights. We're doing movie fights. Who would play Conor McGregor, though, in a movie?
Ooh, that's a great
I think
question.
you grow that beard, yeah.
Just go for it. I just feel like he speaks Sorkin but fights the fight. It's a very hard guy to find.
He speaks Sorkin.
He speaks Sorkin, but he also backs it up. So I want to say like a Guy Ritchie, Charlie Hunnam, like that combo.
That's good too. I like that.
Guys.
I like
that. He has the look. He's got the swagger. He can do the strut. I'm gonna go Charlie Hunnam.
Greenlit. She is from Geek and Sundry, and she's a friend of the show. You know her from all over the place. Welcome to the party, ERIKA ISHII.
Always happy to be at a party, Hal.
Oh, heck yeah. ERIKA, give us what was something new and exciting. What's going on?
Oh, man. Wow, New York Comic-Con, right?
Oh, hell yeah, I was there.
Crazy. I was just there for 30 hours covering, but I was literally just backstage covering Origin, which is a new YouTube series, which is awesome.
Right on.
Cyberpunk.
Nice. Well, ERIKA, welcome back from New York, and welcome to Movie Fights. And, last but not least, he is the professor, Mr. Lon Harris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Lon, I got to give you a little bit of cred here.
Really?
For I don't think I've shouted you out enough for being one of the founding fathers of the Owl Nation.
It was just, I was wearing a Twin Peaks shirt featuring an owl.
Yes.
The owls are not what they seem, being a catchphrase from the show.
And I had a pin with an owl on it, and love of owls, Hoot Hoot, was born.
That very same day.
So thank you for being just a pillar of the owl community.
It's my pleasure. There's an owl that lives on my street. I never get a look at him, but I can hear him.
Do me a favor.
Do you know what kind it is?
I don't.
Does he leave like owl pellets? You know, the
it's just,
throw
there's
up
a
with
park.
the bones?
There's a park across the street, and if I walk my dog at night, I can hear the hoot hoot, but I never have seen him.
So this is real. My girlfriend is so obsessed with owls that every room has multiple owls everywhere. And training for this movie fight, I was surrounded by owls, and she has a giant 2-foot owl tattoo on her leg, like her whole top left
Oh my
thigh.
goodness.
Wow.
Owl, because she loves owls. Like
She's part of the Owl Nation.
So
Oh my God.
I brought
A member of the Owl
I felt
Nation.
like I was a part of this whole rise of owls.
Wow.
Amazing. I'll put a bow on that, but by saying, Lon, please capture that owl and bring it in.
Please fight that owl.
Yes. You know what? Today's fights will be decided by myself and our friends on the Dan Cam. What up? Dan
We're
Merle.
done talking about owls?
Yes.
Top 5 owls.
Another world.
Listen, the sun has risen on our nocturnal owl talk.
all right.
Dan, what's going on? Any box office predictions for this weekend?
Oh, wow. Well, I was just reading. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a very big fight to number one between Venom and A Star is Born.
Oh.
I think they're going to be jostling for that number one spot.
Right
and
on.
First Man's coming out, which I liked a lot, and Bad Times at the El Royale's coming out, which I liked a lot, and
Nice.
Goosebumps 2 is coming out, which I saw, and so
Box
many
office report.
mildly recommend. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great weekend. Last weekend was a great weekend. I think it's going to be another one at the box office.
Thank you for giving us that.
Box office is my owls, Hal.
Yeah.
I could talk about it forever.
No, like I asked you that question, you gave us, that was a succinct, powerful rundown.
Thank you.
Potent. Thanks, brother. And she is the voice of the people. We are always lucky to have Ms. Danielle Radford. Yeah,
That's
what
the
up, Danielle?
closest I get to hooting.
You know what? I'll take it. Because you're a corgi gal.
I am. Corgi gal.
Woof, woof.
Corgi clan? Nope, not that word. Okay, we're good. Just corgs.
Not too many hard Ks. Moving on.
Corgi clan.
Cute corgi gal.
Corgi Club. Club Corgi.
Club Corgi. There we go. We found it.
Club Corgi.
We got
Hashtag
that.
that.
So, for the first 3 rounds, Dan and I will be chiming in with our opinions, and you are the conduit of the people. Do you want to explain to folks how that works?
Yes, I am. I am the voice of the people. So there is a poll that will be on the YouTube. If you're curious as to how that works, go ahead and click down in the description box below. The polls will go up after the fighters have given their have started their arguing, because we want to make sure it's based on the arguments, not just on the pick that you would like. There are some really fun polls and things happening over on Twitter. Please feel free to join those. We encourage it. But the one that counts for this is the one on YouTube. But go to Movie Fights Live hashtag on Twitter. We will definitely, I'll be in there looking for any fun alternative answers, any of what Hal likes to call dank memes.
Oh, those sick-ass dang memes.
Any spare corgis you have lying around. So we will be checking on the hashtags of Twitter as well.
Heck yes. Danielle, thank you so much. Are you guys ready to mix it up?
Let's do it.
I am now.
All right.
So ready.
JTE is back in the booth. JTE getting well on the mend. Drop that package, brother.
Prepare to die. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know. It's main event time.
There's 3. There's Biopic, James Gunn.
All right, thank you, Thor. Let's
Thank you, Thor.
I wake
jump
up every morning and just say thank you,
Just
Thor.
thanks to Thor for this
into
wonderful
this.
morning. It's Thursday.
Question number 1. Ooh, yeah, this is some hot news this week. James Gunn has taken on Suicide Squad for Warner Brothers. What one major change should Gunn make to the Suicide Squad movies going forward? All right, yeah, I know a lot of us have been thinking about this and excited about his inclusion in the DC EU. Coy, start us off.
So, in my opinion, the thing that James Gunn does so well is he makes you invest in the characters. So, as I trust him to do that without even mentioning, I'm going to say focus on a singular villain. My problem with the first Suicide Squad was it didn't really have something I was focusing on. It had space holes, it had supernatural elements, it had a lot of things that are just like pew, 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 and I never felt like it landed on a thing that we were fighting. The cool thing about having a series of villains that team up to fight something is that that's the original thing that keeps this from being like other films. That didn't use that for its strength. So I would have the team of Suicide Squad having a central villain, and then you could make that the hero. The thing about that the Sinister script that was bouncing around with Drew Goddard was that Spider-Man was kind of the villain, and that was a really cool concept. So the reason you love these characters is because you need to identify with them. So you have these underdog villains, you have them team up, and then I would have a centralized villain, maybe a Martian Manhunter, maybe a Batman, someone that they would be against, and that way you'd have a focal point. James Gunn is so good at writing that he makes you cry over a blue guy dying after quoting Mary Poppins. He makes you invest in a CGI Rocket Raccoon. He makes you believe in things that you don't think are possible. If anyone can make you root against Batman, against Martian Manhunter, against Superman, it's James Gunn. And if anyone can make you believe a team of roundabout knock-em-up villains, it is this man, but they need something to be fighting, and that is why they come together, and that is the purpose of James Gunn being used in this world, because that's what he does best.
All right, thank you, Coy. Let's go to Erika.
So what happened with the Suicide Squad was that they were making a movie and they had this tone in mind and they had the pacing in mind, and then they put out a trailer that was very clearly modeled after James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, everybody, the one with Bohemian Rhapsody, and everybody saw it and we were all really excited and it was going to be awesome. And then the marketing team saw that everybody really responded to that, so they handed the movie itself over to the trailer house that cut the trailer. And what proceeded was the editing that was Frankenstein's monster. It was a bit of the cut they had before. It was a bit of the trailer house's cut, and they were trying to make a film that would appeal to people based on pretty much this trailer based on James Gunn. So what they need to do is have James Gunn's singular vision at the beginning and then just carry it all the way through. It's that easy, honestly, because he has this tone in mind that is really pitch perfect for it. He's, as Coy said, like really great with ensemble characters, and so, you know, you focus on the squad and you just have him handle it all the way through production, and I really don't foresee any problems arising if he's just in charge of it from beginning to end, because there were so many cool things that we really loved about the film. You know, everybody has something like Margot Robbie was great, or, you know, like I really liked this introduction, or I really liked that introduction, or that introduction. Just pick one, though. And honestly, just, there was so much that could be saved by good editing.
Thank you, Erika. Lon.
So I think when you're talking about Suicide Squad, you're talking about working in a established genre. It's a team on a mission movie. We've seen a lot. It's a Dirty Dozen kind of movie. It's we're rounding up this crew. They're going to have this mission they have to go do. And they have to hear the steps they're going to take to do it. The problem with the movie, or one of the big problems with the movie, is that it's giving them a threat that they can't possibly counter. It's giving them a supernatural threat when they are a ground level team made up of sort of everyday kind of people. They're not superheroes. They're villains, but they're sort of ordinary villains. Captain Boomerang has a boomerang that has a GPS and a camera on. It's like a boomerang with a GoPro. Harley Quinn is a lady in clown makeup with a bat or a mallet. Like Killer Croc is a man with reptilian features. Like these are not superheroes. They're regular kinds of people with, like an element that makes them freakish or weird or different. But that's not the same. So putting them up against a space witch and having them have to fight that kind of a menace, it doesn't make sense, and here's the core thing, it doesn't allow them to do what they do as characters. What does Deadshot do? What's his identity when we're told about him right away? He's an amazing marksman. He can use guns to go in and do anything that you can think of that could be done with guns. And who do we pit him against? A dancing space witch who uses magic to destroy the city. Well, what good is that? That's not showcasing him doing the thing that he's designed to do. So if you gave the Suicide Squad a ground level reasonable threat that actually matches their abilities, it would be an instantly much more interesting movie that would actually make sense because it's balanced. This is a fight they can theoretically win, so we get engaged with, well, how are they going to pull this off, rather than an insurmountable foe they couldn't possibly hope to counter, because then it's just like running around getting shot at until the end when Diablo blows everybody up.
All right. Fight it out, everybody.
So my thing with the centralized villain, we have similar ideas with the solution here, but I think as long as the villain is centralized, Supernatural can still work. I think if the villain is Swamp Thing, but they're all against Swamp Thing, then everyone teaming up is the whole point. So I think that the movie, as long as you focus on the characters, and then you have Diablo and Deadshot doing everything they need to do, then it can still land whether or not it's Supernatural, as long as there's a centralized
I agree
thing.
that one of the strengths of the DC Comics universe is that you mix these ideas. So like Superman is, action superhero, a little bit of alien. Batman is detective. Wonder Woman is mythology, and they face supernatural threats all the time. It's not new or alien to the DCEU. It's just we haven't seen it necessarily done in a cohesive fashion, but it's there, and there are members of the team that have supernatural abilities.
Well, Diablo, but he's gone. Who
He'll
else?
be back.
He's back.
Literally, who else? None of the other members of the team
Depends on who
really
we're
do.
getting as a team, but there's so many members of the Suicide Squad in the comics can be supernatural,
And
or you can reshape.
Batman faces supernatural villains.
Okay, but Batman is Batman. Nobody on the Suicide Squad is Batman. That's what makes Batman Batman.
In some of them, they're even better than Batman. Like in some versions, Harley Quinn
Rick
has
Flag is a U.S. commando. Like he's a guy that you would send into Iraq to go free a prisoner. He's a guy that you would send into Afghanistan on a special mission. He's not a guy that you would send in to fight Superman.
What is so compelling about the team aspect and about Gotham's universe is that Batman's just a guy and he is up against these supernatural terrors.
Batman's not just a guy. He's a genius. He's a trained ninja, and he's the wealthiest man in the world. It's like that's not just being a guy. The point is like Deadshot is just a guy. He's a guy who's a great marksman.
He's the best marksman.
Okay,
so
but you're not putting him up against somebody that can be shot.
But
if you're not putting him up against somebody who's vulnerable to being shot, it's pointless. He might as well be a regular person.
The main villain is the point that I think we're both making. I'm just saying that a villain that's supernatural works, and I think with the James Gunn
thing, much more interesting to put them in a scenario where they'd all have to team up and use their individual abilities against something that's actually realizable that they can defeat.
Absolutely, and I appreciate your speed around this right there. But I also think
I would also say that in terms of having multiple threats as for the villain, that James Gunn handles that very well. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy, he was able to weave multiple bad guys, and change some of them over to be good guys, and then it all kind of becomes a cohesive battle for good in the end.
But I think with this many characters that you're reshaping, there's no time for that. You have so many characters that need to be reintroduced, and if you're saying editing, I think if James Gunn shoots the movie and writes the movie, he doesn't need to edit the movie because he's already made a James Gunn movie. Like, the James Gunn movie is already going to be what comes out because he's already assembled
like
it.
editing is such an essential
I'm not saying editing's
part
not
of the
important.
storytelling process.
I'm just saying that they copied someone that they're already got.
But the other thing is, with the editing, I don't think better editing would have saved that first Suicide. You're still stuck with this terrible dialogue. You're still stuck with this scenario that doesn't really make sense. The movie opens with Amanda Waller saying, like, we need a team that could theoretically go fight Superman. Like, that doesn't make sense for the team that you've actually assembled. Editing's not going to fix all of those problems. Like, you're right.
It couldn't fix the first one. It could have made it a whole lot better.
Well,
We wouldn't have had those
But if that's the one main change you're going to make and you agree that it wouldn't have fixed the first one, then, well, why would we assume that that one main change is what's going to be fixing the second one? To your point, this is a sequel. What comic book sequel doesn't have at least one other villain come in? We're joining the Suicide Squad after they're already a squad. They're in progress. It almost doesn't make sense that they wouldn't have any other foes
Because
that
I want
they're
to be
taking
invested
on.
in the actual Suicide Squad. The whole point is that I want to care about them in the first one. I
But I
didn't.
mean,
So
you invest
want
in the
a
Dark
villain.
Knight, even though he's got Two-Face and
But
the
that's
Joker
one
and
man.
Scarecrow all
but
in
you
there.
invest in the Avengers because you've met them in other films. You invest in all these people that their team. If you want to start with a team, you need to care about the 5 or 6 members
But we
of the
already
team.
met them. We met them in the first Suicide Squad.
But we don't really know them. I can't describe Deadshot beyond shoot stuff. I can't describe
His
El
kid.
Diablo.
He's sad because he can't
But
spend more
James
time
Gunn
with his
is better
kid.
than that. So one centralized villain means that we get to meet the Suicide Squad, invest in them, and then they can go after a central threat, and
I just
therefore
don't
we're
see it as
invested.
that essential. We've had so many movies that work, that do a good job of establishing the central character and do have multiple villains. I mean, Spider-Man 2, it's like everybody's favorite comic book movie. You've got multiple villains in that one as well.
Stuck.
But isn't it, you get Green Goblin?
Yeah, that's
in there
the thing.
somewhere?
I mean,
Yeah.
even in, as I said, in Guardians of the Galaxy, there are multiple villains. In
Yeah.
Suicides, in
Both
this,
of them, really.
in Suicide Squad, there were multiple villains, but the problem is that it wasn't, as I said, like focused and edited. And both of you have
honestly,
the idea of there being a lack of focus.
You
And
can have multiple villains in like Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's just like how these movies work
But if
now.
you get
You're
someone like Martian Manhunter, someone that's stronger than them, then it shows the actual team dynamics. You don't need that. You could have a villain in the
I'm
month.
not saying you
over
don't
the film,
need it, but I'm saying not doing it would necessarily like magically fix
But
the
my
movie.
point is twofold.
Coy, go ahead and roll this into your final thoughts.
So my point is twofold, in that we both have a centralized villain, but also that centralized villain is a hero. That's something I haven't gotten to touch on much, that you want to have these people be villains, and that is the point of the movie. James Gunn writes such compelling characters, and he directs so well, that you'd be compelled to follow the villains over the heroes. So I'm saying the reason you have a centralized villain is to make that a hero we all already love, and you are invested in the villains over the hero. That makes for a much more interesting dynamic. If you had multiple villains, you wouldn't care as much about the hero or the villains. In this case, you let James Gunn do what he does best, which is be the underdog and root for the underdog, which is what the Suicide Squad essentially are.
Thank you, Coy. ERIKA.
Both of your arguments had to deal with lack of focus, and I don't think that they would be changes that would fix everything overall, both because James Gunn and in the DCEU, we have established, multiple villains and supernatural threats, and they've been done well, both by James Gunn and in the DCEU. I don't think those are the be-all, end-all for what can fix the film. Good storytelling, in the end, is what's going to save the film, and I think that lies in editing for this franchise.
Thank you, ERIKA. Juan.
So, I mean, the idea, I think, here is that if the Suicide Squad had a goal that we could get our minds around, that we could understand, that was clearly laid out, that's what would make this movie much more compelling. We've seen it work in the Ocean's movies. We've seen it work in the Mission Impossible movies. We've seen it work in films like The Dirty Dozen. Anytime you have a clearly set, this is the group, these are their abilities, this is the objective they have, this is how they're going to win, that's like a really clear, easy, fun, compelling through line that anybody can appreciate and accept, even if you're not into comic book movies. And it would help to set this apart from the glut of other comic book movies and team-up movies that we've had. So that's a great idea. They started with this great concept, and then they ruined it by bringing in this, menace that these guys are outmatched to face. It's another, magical sky beam for the 100,000th time. And it would be much more interesting to throw this Suicide Squad that they've already assembled into some sort of more street-level, Defender-style situation. I know that's Marvel, but just for the sake of comparison, where it's like a group or a clan that had certain abilities, that was armed in a certain way, that we could actually understand, here's how the Suicide Squad is going to take on this threat and fight them and beat them down on a much more street-level, realizable way. It would make the series much more interesting. In terms of editing, I think it's a little bit garbage in, garbage out. The movie was not good. If the raw materials were not good, you can clean it up in editing all you like. You can put better needle drops. There was a lot. It was a very messy movie. You could certainly clean it up. But I don't think that's going to fix a bad movie that was unsatisfying and turn it into a good, satisfying movie. I think you have to go back to a more core level than that. As for bringing on one villain, I mean, the first Suicide Squad basically had one villain. It was the Enchantress. She was the villain. Like, there were some side plots going on, but that was basically it. The Joker coming in at the very end, but almost, again, more as a sort of twist ending. I don't think that was the problem with the first movie, and I think we've had a lot of really good comic book movies that do have multiple villains. So I think that the clear answer is a supernatural threat. Removing that from the whole thing would make the movie a lot better.
Bam. Thank you, Lon. That is round one. There we go. Dan Merle, what's going on factually here?
I have a fact compliment to be paid to ERIKA because she avoided one of my, particularly because this is around Halloween, one of my Halloween pet peeves. She referred to Suicide Squad as Frankenstein's monster. Thank you so much, because everyone, I watch Halloween Wars on the Food Network. They make Halloween cakes. Don't judge me. And they kept talking about Frankenstein. They're like, make something of Frankenstein and zombies. I'm like, it's Frankenstein's monster. So, ERIKA, a fact check kudos for correctly
Thank
Frankenstein's
you very much.
monster.
But also, we should remember that Victor Frankenstein was the true monster of the story.
That's true.
Maybe he named the monster after himself.
Frankenstein.
And one quick correction. While there was some development around Harry Osborn becoming the Hobgoblin or the New Goblin in the next movie, Dr. Octopus was the one main antagonist in that film, much as Green Goblin was the main antagonist in the first one. So I think it would be safe to say that he really only fought one villain in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And they developed villains for the next film in that movie. So
I mean...
But the also great Spider-Man 3...
That multiple villain masterpiece.
Yeah.
Or the amazing Spider-Man 2.
Also, Electro and villain Rhino?
False advertising on Rhino and
Paul
Amazing
Giamatti
Spider-Man 2.
doing his very
Hero
good
as a villain.
Russian
Great new
accent.
idea.
So this first round was a great slugfest. It was nonstop, and you guys were trading blows like crazy. At the end of the day, I love Coy with this with the singular villain argument, and I love what Lon was saying. That made sense to me. But I felt like you guys kept knocking each other out, and the one that came in and just like dropped the hammer, I thought was ERIKA, because yes, he's going to be writing and directing it, and there are so many elements, but just a cohesive film that has just like, okay, I can follow this linearly. I get it. I am locked in. To me, that's like, I saw arguments for and against both of yours. I would love a street level, or if they sold us, if they sold us something cool and mystical, I'd get on board for that too. But it has to make sense and be a linear film. At the end of the day, through the noise came ERIKA ISHII. I go to ERIKA. Dan.
I agree. This is very difficult for me to decide who was going to get the point, and I had to go into everyone's arguments, counter arguments. I feel like the one that spoke to me, I was going this way, and then Lon actually had a good closing argument about the Enchantress and how they already had a central villain, and that the movie still, was not very strong in a lot of people's eyes. But even given that, I think that the way that Coy described his argument wasn't just that there's one central villain, but that it is a hero,
yes,
and that dynamic is what would more firmly establish the tone of the team and what their goal is. I found Lon and ERIKA's arguments to be very compelling, but that was, for me, the best pitch and the strongest thing that swayed me over. Almost taken out. I think it was a really good closing by Lon, but I still think that Coy, for me, took it, so I'm going to go with Coy.
Bam. So it's one for ERIKA, one for Coy. Danielle, can you settle this for us?
All right. Well, we have at 47%. No supernatural. At it sounds like an indictment of the show.
And with which I agree.
Hashtag cancel supernatural.
Screw you guys.
Good luck with that,
They're magic brothers.
Die.
Everyone has to die.
Yeah, I know.
Jeez. At 29%, we have one villain, and then at 23%, we have better editing.
All right, so
No help.
that means right out of the gate, we got a three-way tie.
Yeah.
So this is the unprecedented, the earliest we've ever gone to a tiebreaker. And the tiebreak
Why would you
is
do this to me?
We've established that in
Yeah.
the case of
Now
a
you
tie,
have to, vote
Danielle's
for real.
opinion becomes the
if it's a tie,
tiebreaker.
it's Danielle's opinion.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, listening to the arguments, all of them were fantastic arguments. I have to say that the one that I thought was the most compelling and well thought out was Lon's.
All right.
Lon, you take the point.
Wow, that was unexpected.
Bam, no supernatural.
And I want to say we had some great suggestions in both the chat and on Twitter.
Yes.
At Sleeping Shrimp, love that name, on Twitter said, did everybody scream Dave Bautista and as Bane already?
Oh, yeah.
I wake up every morning and scream for no
Dave
reason.
Bautista's
Just
Bane.
Dave Bautista's
I
Bane.
hadn't even thought that's great.
That's solid.
That's
I
really
hadn't
good.
thought about putting Bane back in, but yeah, that would be pretty
I've also
good.
heard him bandied about as Solomon Grundy, perhaps.
Yes.
Oh, that would be
These
better.
ideas.
No, I want
These
that.
are great.
instead, Yeah.
I changed my vote.
Let's re-argue.
Lon, you already got the
I'm
point.
going,
argue for
okay, here's what we need. Dave Bautista.
You already got the point. All right.
Movie agreements.
Moving on to question number 2. Lon is in the lead, 1-0 to 0. All right. Question 2. The screenwriter for the in-development Kraven movie said he may have a face-to-face with Spidey.
Face-to-face battle. I think
A
you're missing
face-to-face
a word
battle.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a sit-down. Like
face-to-face,
like in Heat with Pacino and De Niro. No. A square-off, a battle with Spidey. Who should play Kraven the Hunter? Who should play Kraven the Hunter? And it's question number 2, so we start with player number 2, ERIKA ISHII.
My pick is Pedro Pascal. I feel that we were robbed with not having him as Doctor Strange. But I think that he needs to join what is essentially the MCU and is definitely going to be the MCU. He was a fan favorite for Game of Thrones. He's an incredible performer and actor. He's extremely sexy, and he can buff up to be Kraven. I really would like him to be part of the MCU and extended MCU, because let's be real here, anything that's going to be in Spider-Man film is going to end up in the MCU, and I think this is a really good role for him. Plus, diversity.
Great. Thank you, ERIKA. Lon.
So I was reading up a bit about Kraven, and particularly The Last Hunt, which is a storyline they said it probably is going to be somewhat influential to this film. It includes a scene where Kraven the Hunter drinks from a bowl of hallucinogens and then covers himself in spiders to prepare. Eventually, he frees himself and starts killing and eating the spiders. Who else do you want to see play out that sequence than Michael Shannon? This is the part Michael Shannon was born to play. Also, think about Michael Shannon's intensity when he's obsessively hunting. We saw him do it in Shape of Water. We saw him do it in Nocturnal Animals. You don't want to be in this guy's crosshairs when he's on the hunt, when he's determined to hunt you down. That's terrifying. That's my pick for Kraven the Hunt.
All right, Michael Shannon. That was a great picture of Shannon, by the way. Background to Coy.
I am a huge fan of Kraven's Last Hunt, of Kraven himself, and of the actor that I think is the one and only choice to play him, and that is, of course, Benicio del Toro. This is a man made to play savagery and eloquence. This is a man played to play beasts and refined gentlemen alike. This is a man who is so enigmatic you can't quite put him anywhere, much like Kraven. Kraven has a legacy in that he's a family man, but also in that he hunts people. The duality of Kraven is not shined upon enough, and I think that no other man could both be seen drinking hallucinogens, eating through spiders, but also be seen at the Kravenoff family dinner. The most important thing about Kraven beyond the hunt aspect is that these Kravenoffs keep coming out after Spider-Man, and there's this long legacy. The reason Kraven kills himself at the end of Kraven's Last Hunt is because he feels like he's betrayed his family by not doing it sooner, and now that he's accomplished this task, there's no greater hunt, and he has accomplished it for his family's name. I can see Benicio del Toro as someone that would believe that strongly in something. I can believe he'd be someone that can hunt someone at the same time, and I see Benicio del Toro as his character in Sicario as a wolf that does what needs to be done to accomplish his tasks. No one's more animalistic, no one's more refined, no one's more perfect. Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, fight it out, guys.
I could not dispute how any of these men would not be suited for the role. Honestly, they are fantastic performers, and I could imagine any of them taking hallucinogens and eating spiders. However, I know, right? Am I right? Do you think?
I just really want to see that in a movie, to be honest. any three of these guys does that in a movie, I'm there.
But
Watch it.
Benicio del Toro, as we said, and you agreed, that pretty much anybody that ends up in the Spideyverse is going to end up in the MCU, and Benicio del Toro is already in the MCU as the Collector.
Sony's separate. They're trying to keep it separate with Venom, and Kraven is
They're
never going to touch
trying
MCU.
to,
Craven's never going to get that far. He's
but-
doing a solo film.
Let's
I
think
don't
about,
think.
let's think about Benicio. You mentioned Sicario, which I think is a great example. Benicio, there's always so many layers to what's going on. He's so complex. You said mysterious. I couldn't agree more. That's what you get with Benicio. He's never doing anything, and he's single-minded, fixated. He's doing things, but he's also thinking about the consequences of what he's doing. He's playing chess. He's thinking 5 moves ahead. That's what we see. The intelligence behind his eyes. That's what you get from Benicio del Toro performance. But Kraven is just single-minded, obsessed, driven. Like, I'm going to kill Spider-Man. He's a hunter. I don't necessarily see that. The other thing is we've seen Benicio take these parts in these big comic book, these big franchise movies.
Like Zod?
Like, he's... Well, but...
That's the thing. If we're going to play...
You didn't let me finish my point.
Sorry.
We see him show up, and he's always pulled back in these movies. He doesn't get engaged with these roles like he does the best roles, like Sicario, like Usual Suspects, the films that we love him in. He shows up in these movies. He gets his paycheck to play DJ in the Star Wars movies, and then he's off to the next thing. He doesn't sink his teeth into these roles like these actors who, like Michael Shannon, who shows up as Zod and shows up. Every scene that he's in, he's 110%. You have Michael Shannon at his full powers in that movie.
Kraven, animalistic. You've got Sicario, Traffic, Usual Suspects. You've got Savages. You got Wolfman.
But those guys aren't
Militaristic.
animalistic. They're thoughtful. They're sophisticated.
But they've got
they're
an animal
composed.
quality to them that military man Michael Shannon does not. I love Michael Shannon. I wanted him to be Cable.
Animal quality, Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
He cuts off his own
He's a
finger.
military expert that handles things militaristically. Every time I see Michael Shannon, I see Fahrenheit 451. I see Shape of Water. I see 12 Strong. I see a man that is composed. I want a man that's beating his chest in the jungle, covered in blood, eating spiders.
He's a bit the thinking man.
No,
He's
he's
a
played
thinking
Descent
man.
into Madness dozens of times. What about Bug, that William Friedkin film? He goes crazy.
One of them
We're
is
thinking
military,
of
one
one
is-
moment out of the whole sort of Kraven saga,
And that, I think, is
we're thinking
Benicio's an
more
animal.
of the whole
I
of
think
it.
Michael Shannon, he's high and low. I mean, he obviously has played very sophisticated, dressed down, like cultured characters, thoughtful characters. But he also plays crazy people. I mean, there was Take Shelter where he's running around thinking the apocalypse.
But the last
is
time we
coming.
gave him
That's the
superhero money,
balance.
Zod happened, and that wasn't a role that he worked.
Well,
he just
and
kind of
here's the thing: is if
I
we're
agree
playing
to
the
Zod.
meta game of looking at the studio system, we all know how this works. They're not gonna cast him in in this other franchise when he's been so prominent in the DCEU. That hasn't happened yet since
there's
the
plenty of
reboots.
people who go into both.
Like which
genres.
one since Chris Evans?
What are you saying? So since the last huge one to do
I mean,
it, who's
because
done it?
he was,
there's no,
in-
I mean, there's lots of give and take. They don't not cast people in one franchise because they're in the other.
I mean, they do.
Like
They
Ryan
don't
Reynolds was
now.
the Green Lantern, and now he's Deadpool.
My biggest thing with both of these, they're both very refined, and I don't see the other side of them. Pedro Pascal I've only seen in Game of Thrones. I don't see enough of his versatility to play the two sides of Kraven. I like Pedro Pascal a lot, and I would much rather have seen him as Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange and Kraven couldn't be more different characters. So when you say Doctor Strange, I see it. When you say Kraven, I don't. That's a big popular fan casting. When you say Michael Shannon, I love him as something else, but he's too militaristic for the animal that is Kraven. He's got a lion around his shoulders. He's hunting naked through the jungle. Benicio del Toro might do that at home right now. I can see
Michael
Benicio del Toro
Shannon?
naked hunting someone.
He's a wild man.
But he's a militaristic mild man. Fahrenheit 451 is very perfect for him because it's about this dictatorship and about this
Craven's
control.
a Russian aristocrat.
That's why the
that
duality.
balance is exactly what we're talking about.
That's
I
the
don't
duality of
understand.
Benicio del Toro. He's an animal, but he's also refined. I don't see
when has Benicio del Toro played an animal? Like these movies you're mentioning, Traffic,
Sicario, he's a wolf. He's a literal wolf manifestation of a
He's a very
mercenary.
violent man. He's willing to do anything to achieve his goals, but he's not animalistic at all. He's completely composed. That's the whole point. When you get to the end, Emily Blunt
the thing
realizes, oh my God, this guy is horrible. He's a killer. She didn't realize it the whole movie because he's so friendly, composed,
But
easy to
your
get
earlier
along.
argument was
He's
he
the
didn't have
opposite of what
focus.
you're
The thing is
saying.
You
that
just said he has the focus you
don't-
said he didn't earlier.
I can't think of a movie in which we have seen Benicio del Toro just
Wolfman.
lose it at
Wolfman
all.
loses it over and over again.
But it's a
Wolfman
terrible movie in
but his
performance.
performance is
He
fantastic.
just really sell
that's
it
his worst
though for
movie.
me
I
I
for
think that he plays that duality, and I think he's the only one of these that does. And you
he's-
just described his focus as being the thing you want, and then you said
No,
earlier
I'm
that
saying the
Kraven.
balance. I'm saying the focus of being able to be in a rage, obsessed, fixated, animalistic, and to show that side that's composed, that's worldly, that's
Like
a
Usual
Russian
Suspects.
aristocrat. When does he get to be a wild man? In
He's
Usual
composed
Suspects?
in that, and then later on in
Give me
other
the
movies,
keys,
he's
vodka.
no,
Come
I'm saying
on.
that
He's
composed
very
is usually-
calm.
Right, Usual Suspects is
He
composed, and his
tends
other movies
to
are as animalistic.
play
Which other
Benicio
movie?
del
Name-
Toro.
name
Star
And a
Wars,
lot
he's
of
animalistic
things.
and composed. You don't know
Hey.
that he's into that
No,
Bane switch.
no, he is.
Give me your necklace.
do
I gotta
not-
put it in here. Okay. See you later, guys.
He's
I
Hallie
home in that
has
movie.
fun, and the
Love him
duality
in that,
of
but
him
it is
is those
definitely
different
not.
things.
I'm a
You do
huge-
not see a duality in Star
I'm a huge
Wars.
fan of his, but he doesn't really play like rabid and like maybe if you go back to like his when he's a thug in a Bond movie in the 80s.
And
but that's not
Traffic.
really what
Traffic, he definitely
but he's
is
also
ravenous.
calm and centered in Traffic.
All right, let's go into some final thoughts here. Erika?
These men are all very fine actors, but we do have to play the metagame of who is attached to big franchises that could possibly cross over with Kraven. And Pedro Pascal is the only one who is franchise free at the moment. We do need to see him in this film. You do see that duality of him, like just completely losing it and being fixated and obsessed to the point where it is his downfall in Game of Thrones. So he is also a very popular fan cast, which is not a bad thing. It would be good to have the people's voice heard for some of these castings once in a while. Pedro Pascal.
Thank you. Lon?
I started by saying, like, if Josh Brolin can be Thanos and Cable in the same summer, I don't see why Michael Shannon couldn't be Kraven the Hunter in Sony's Spider-Verse, even though he was Zod, who's long dead in the DCEU. I don't think that would be blocking him from taking the job. As far as the other two, I mean, look, Benicio del Toro, a fantastic actor, popped up in a lot of movies I love, always great, reliable, could play this part for sure. But I don't really see the wild man Kraven, like somebody who'd be terrifying coming after Spider-Man. He's too cool, he's too methodical. That's just who Benicio del Toro plays, and that's who he is. As for Pedro Pascal, another great actor. I don't know if he's enough of a draw to center this movie. Like, he was in Narcos season 3, which nobody really watched. He's a TV actor who's been a bit player in some movies. He's great. I don't know if he's the guy you put center stage. He's also so suave. He's such a ladies' man. He's so sophisticated. Like, that's who he was playing in Game of Thrones. That's sort of how I see him. I don't necessarily I think the Russian aristocrat part, great. The running through the jungle, running through the city, shirt ripping off, wearing animal pelts, going after Spider-Man. I don't know if I necessarily see it. Michael Shannon has played both completely wild lunatics going crazy in hotel rooms, and he has played very reliable, trusted, buttoned-down, expert military men. He can play both. He's a terrific actor. He's been in these kind of projects before and brings 100%. I think he would totally nail this.
Thanks, Lon. Coy?
So I definitely don't lean into the business side of this because we've seen the Deadpools, the Chris Evans, the Thanos is a great example. We've seen that, so that doesn't affect I think of who is best. And for me, Pedro Pascal, even if there is no contract issues, for me, he's very composed and single-minded, and I can't see him being ravenous and in the jungle, and I haven't seen enough of his work to trust him with this important of a character, because if Kraven is done wrong, he's a bad villain. If Kraven is written wrong, he's not handled well, and I could see Pedro Pascal, without my exposure to his work, being too hammy or leaning in the wrong way. Michael Shannon, I love dearly. Michael Shannon's one of my favorite actors. I wanted him to be Cable. I think the moment when you lose your mind, there's two ways to go. There's animal and there's military. And we have seen him, when he loses it and he's unhinged, he goes military. That's what Shape of Water was about. That is what Fahrenheit 451 is about. I love Michael Shannon losing his shit, but he always, like that cheerleader video where he read the thing on Funny or Die, he always has that military aspect to the way he does things that wouldn't work for Kraven. When I look at Benicio del Toro, I see an animal unhinged. There's a reason he was cast as a Wolfman. There's a reason he gets cast in these roles where he just seems untethered, and he can also play the composed and usual suspects while also playing the animalistic and Wolfman. The only one of these actors that when he loses his mind does he seem like an animal. I want the aristocrat and I want the Kraven the Hunter, and I think the only one is Benicio del Toro, and he's a draw on top of all that.
Coy, thank you. There you go. Bam, that is round 2. Dan, would you chime in with some facts and roll it into your thoughts on the round?
Sure. I mean, fact-wise, I think I could go back and, there was a discussion of who's been in what franchise, and, there have been actors pulled from any number of comic book franchises to other comic book franchises. There's so many at this point, it's inevitable. Other than the accurate observation made that Benicio del Toro is currently an MCU character. Is this part of the MCU? Who knows? Sony, it's a half. Nobody knows at this point. So, rolling into my thoughts, I feel like this whole thing became a Benicio del Toro versus Michael Shannon debate, and Lon and Coy both, I think, gave a lot of good points about why the other one would not be good, but there was a third option there, and I feel like nobody ever really addressed it. I thought Erika made some good points for Pedro Pascal, and you guys both addressed it a little bit in your closing, but I feel like you both got so caught up in each other's choices that you didn't think about Erika's choice, and I thought she made a very good case for it. So I would go with Erika, and I'd go with Pedro Pascal.
All right, so that is 1 for Erika. Yeah, it became a real slugfest between Shannon and Pascal, Shannon and Del Toro, who could freak out or who's
Yeah, who can eat those spiders back?
Yeah, like
eat spiders
yeah,
better.
like your guy's never freaked out in a movie. Yes, he has. I feel like I liked where ERIKA was coming from, but I feel like we got so caught up in these two that it kind of took over, and we heard just a little bit less about Pedro Pascal than I would have liked. At the end of the day, in these two, in the slugfest that, for better or for worse, I felt like dominated that round. I felt like Coy took it for me right there, even though I think both ultimately capable, but yeah, I got to go with Coy. So it's 1 for ERIKA, 1 for Coy. Danielle, settle the score.
All right, what do we got? We've got, with 41%, Pedro Pascal, 37% Michael Shannon, and 21% Benicio del Toro. Some really interesting other suggestions.
Yes.
I will say right now, the Movie Fights Live hashtag, I don't think I've ever seen as many thirsty gifs. So if you're looking for some thirst gifs, that's where you can find them. The chat,
Very handsome round. Very handsome
very
round.
handsome round. Chat was real big on Nick Cage and Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Listen, I love Nicolas Cage.
What movie? Is that Ultimate Kraven where he's in a reality TV show?
I mean, you are making the parody version of this.
I'm talking about taking hallucinogens.
I would love it. I would go see that movie.
I'd watch Werner Herzog's Nicolas Cage Kraven film tomorrow.
But come on.
Port of Los Angeles?
Serious suggestion.
He goes from New Orleans to LA?
Bad Kraven.
Bad Kraven, I'm in.
Danielle, who else?
So Twitter was really big on Joe Manganiello. Please tell me I pronounced that right.
It's good. He's already dead.
Yeah, and Justin Theroux was another one that Twitter was really big on. They were like, watch The Leftovers and trust me.
No, I know who he is.
I'm a big Leftovers head. Leftovers season 2, one of the best seasons of television.
Did you see him as Kraven the Hunter?
You know what? I'd give him a shot. You know what? I'd let him in the room to audition.
If you could play the dorky director from Mulholland Drive and then Kraven the Hunter, that's range. That's impressive.
He showed some range in Leftovers. He was a little bit unhinged there. Also, just back to what you guys were talking about, in the MCU and the DCU, Lawrence Fishburne straddled both lines just recently.
Ant-Man and Superman.
He was in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Perry White in the DCU and Will Foster in Marvel.
Yeah. Okay, so it is 1 for Lon, 1 for ERIKA. Coy looking to get on the board. Round number 3. Okay, opening this weekend is the Neil Armstrong historical space drama First Man. We ask, what's the best biopic of the 21st century? Best biopic, or biopic, if you will.
No, just biopic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've also heard biopic.
Of the 21st century. Question 3, start with player 3, Lon.
So I'm going with Martin Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street, and the reason that this one appealed to me is it is not just a great biopic. It does a great job of telling you who Jordan Belfort was, why he's notable, why he was important, what this story was about him. But it is also such an amazing portrait of our time, this current era, and so much else of what's happening around his individual story. That really comes to stand for so much more than just the one story of this greedy man and sort of what became of his company. And that's why I think the movie's so powerful. It also works on there's so many layers to it. It's working on so many different levels at once. It is this drama. It is this biopic. It is this insightful story about this one man's life with an incredible performance. One of, I think, Leonardo DiCaprio's all-time greatest performances. And all of these guys that were sort of around him. It is just a compelling version of that story. It's also a very funny comedy. I think it works completely as sort of a send-up, a sort of satire of greed and of the, these kind of brokers and the sort of financial system as it existed at that time. And I think it also works on a level as a sort sort of social commentary. It's sort of about the financial system. It's about the financial crisis. It's about who these people are and why they work that way and why America allows this to continually go on and to keep happening over and over again in our history. So that's a lot to happen. It's got a million moving parts all at once. It's an incredible organizational job Scorsese's doing with that story. And it's also just an incredibly compelling movie. It's really long, and it's just super entertaining and fun to watch. And that's, I think, why it sticks with you, and that's why I picked Wolf of Wall Street.
Thanks, Lon. Back around to Coy.
I saw 21st Century Biopic, and I thought of the one that was not just indicative of the time, but the only one that I think was prophetic. I think the only movie I've seen in a long time that made me go, oh, this is jarring, and then when I rewatched it and went, oh, good God, what have we become? And then rewatched it recently and went, oh, this predicted the downfall of society, was Social Network. When I watched The Social Network, it's a horror film. It is the only biopic I know that paints its villain as the hero, and then villain, and then hero, and then villain. You never really love the character, but you're still invested in the character. At the end of the day, both of our films have a unlikable narrator and an unlikable protagonist, and both are indicative of the time and both live in the now, but one of them does it with David Fincher's malicious and cynical eye in a way that doesn't feel exhausting, but in a way that makes you optimistic for hope and go like, well, when this is over, maybe things will get better while still being so damn dark. And it's really hard to land a movie that doesn't feel exhausting while being so negative, because The Social Network is a commentary on not just the time it was made, but of now. It is a movie that looks back on the most important technological advance of all time. Next to the telephone, Facebook has reshaped what society is, and it's about the person that did that while painting him as a villain while making you interested in his next move. At no point do you really root for Jesse Eisenberg, but at no point do you really root against him. And there are points in Wolf of Wall Street where you're not on board, but I feel like the movie The Social Network is such a piece of our time that when we look back on the 21st century, it's going to be not just the best biopic, it's going to be the movie that explains what the hell the 21st century was.
Thank you, Coy. Erika.
I chose the movie Hidden Figures. Like its name, the subjects of this biopic were hidden. Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson. These are names that you haven't heard before this film mostly, but they are names that are incredibly important. And these stories that are untold are unique, and they are stories that need to be told, especially now. This is a movie that was pro-science in a time that we really need to hear that message. You know, for a lot of... I'll get into the arguments later, but this is what I want the 21st century to be. This is how I see the 21st century, is looking towards a brighter future where people of all creeds can work together to further humanity. This is what we need to see in the 21st century, and I'm so glad that this story is finally being told. It should have been told in the last century, but now we're finally getting this story, and hopefully many others like it.
Fight it out, y'all.
All right. I would like to say first that this is exactly what we need in the 21st century, are stories about privileged, sociopathic men that make their fortune and become famous on the backs of others. Which movie am I talking about out of the two of yours?
It's not most optimistic biopic.
Yeah,
it's best biopic. I don't care that it's what we need. It's what's an actual piece of looking at something.
I think you made a great case for most inspirational or important biopic of the 21st century, and I think you made, well, but that's not best. That's just like, it's important for this movie to exist to educate people. Great, I totally agree with that. But that's not saying it's the best movie. That's just saying it has a good reason to exist. Lots of movies have a good reason to exist that aren't necessarily
they're all
the best
Academy nominated films and Academy Award.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie either. I'm just saying that isn't an argument for why it's the best. That's an argument for why people should see it, which I agree. It's a great movie. But I think the other thing is I'm a little confused. I think your opening statement was a little bit at cross purposes, because on one point you're saying this is the movie that prophetically showed the dark path that we were on, but then you're like, but it ends hopefully with this note of promise for the future. Like, well, how could it have foreseen the dark path we were on since 2010 if it ends hopefully? Like, the things that have happened on Facebook from 2010 to 2018 are not hopeful. And I think this goes back to the larger point that I'm making, that I think we're kind of saying the same thing, which is a movie that's harshly critical of this idea about, like, that's what Wolf of Wall Street is about. It's about, why is America a place that celebrates sociopathic white men?
I don't think that either of your films really criticize or go far enough, because when you put a protagonist in the limelight who is really, they're awful people. They are awful people. And you put them in the lead role, you ask the audience to relate to them. And I'm done having to relate to these people.
The opening of my film is my guy getting dumped, and Jesse Eisenberg spends the movie suffering and losing all of his friends. That's not painted in a good light. The whole movie he's losing while making money, and it shows that money isn't the important thing.
That's what this about a movie about Kraven the Hunter. Like, obviously, we accept that, like, you can have a Venom, you can have a movie where we're not just because the character is the main character doesn't mean, like, the movie is saying they're a good person.
Breaking Bad is about Walter White.
It's asking you to relate to them. It is painting them in human light.
I mean, I think
and in some cases, they aren't really very relatable people, and you shouldn't be relating to them at all.
Jordan Belfort's not a relatable person.
I don't want to know their point of view. I don't think it's valuable.
But the insight into the 21st century would not be gleaned if we didn't have this cautionary tale. The cautionary tale of Social Network is what we became. The movie is literally like, don't do this, and then we all did. That's fascinating, because David Fincher saw what we were becoming before it happened, and now we're there.
To be fair, I think that's happening at the margins of Social Network. A lot of Social Network is just about, here's the story of this company. This interesting story about these guys fighting each other for control of this company. It is an interesting story, but that's a lot of Social Network. There's a little bit of the social commentary. Wolf of Wall Street is 100% about, like, here are horrible people behaving in horrible ways, doing, it's about excess. It's an excessive movie that's about this excess, but in looking at it, it's like, why is this allowed? Why is this okay? Here's how they got away with it.
I just want to give a little direction here. We're talking about the quality of these people. Are they a bad person? Who's the worst person? I want to hear more about why your film is the best biopic, why your film is the best film.
So mine has incredible Sorkin writing. Mine has brilliant directing by David Fincher. The score is incredible, one of the best scores of all time. Project X with Scorsese directing isn't that insightful, and it's just 3 hours of overbloat at times. That movie could have been 2 hours if it had an editor handling it. I would have enjoyed a 2-hour Wolf of Wall Street movie. That's a 3-hour Project X movie with good actors in it. And Hidden Figures is a really good movie to cart into 5th grade on a TV. I enjoyed it, but it's not something I'm going to revisit all the time. It's a very important biopic, and it needed to be told, but it's not something I sit back and watch and go, oh, this is what I need right now. I'm talking about the quality of the film. It's not the quality that I hold these two up to.
Wolf of Wall Street was edited by the same person who edited Goodfellas and Casino and Raging Bull.
And now it's bloated.
I mean...
Sure, she did those things.
The point.
She has done good things. You can't rest on your laurels. That movie is too long.
Roll this into your final thoughts.
Well, to respond to that, I called it an excessive movie about excess, and that's part of it. Part of the disgust that you feel by the end of Wolf of Wall Street, and that is what it's designed to elicit in you, is that you've spent so much time with these characters, you're sick of them, you dislike them inherently more than you would. If you show a scene or two of these guys, it makes it seem fun and alluring, like Glengarry Glen Ross, which is really about how those people are horrible, desperate, pathetic people, but because everybody rewatches the Alec Baldwin monologue over and over, it seems cool. Outside of context, that seems cool. There's a movie called Boiler Room that does a great job of analyzing how that scene out of context looks cool and misleads these young guys into joining a very similar to Wolf of Wall Street kind of business. But Wolf of Wall Street, by spending all that time, it may seem like, yes, it's a long movie, it's a 3-hour movie, but you kind of have to get that idea of how risible these guys are and how obvious what they're doing is and how nothing is done to prevent it.
Thank you, Lon.
You're welcome.
Coy.
I think that only one of these movies is going to be the time capsule of the time. The Wall Street collapse was a hell of a thing, but there's a lot of movies about it. You listed a few great ones. There's only one movie of this caliber about where we are in society now. There's only a movie that handles the crosshairs of society, tech, villains, and all these things with such poise. Only one movie is as prophetic as this one was, and only one has the combined nature of Sorkin, Fincher, and Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. Only one of these movies was this good with, like, Armie Hammer in this, Jesse Eisenberg in this. It made careers of so many stars. The movie you're describing has these stars already built into it, so you're loving Leonardo DiCaprio getting to do that Oscar performance, but you're wanting to win the Oscar. Nobody cared about Jesse Eisenberg and Armie Hammer. Nobody cared about this story. I remember everybody being like, oh, they're making a Facebook movie, and then it was this movie. No one counted on this movie, and then it blew everyone away because of the quality. Everyone wanted your movie to be good, and everyone that loves biopics liked your movie because it's one of those. It is a movie about tropes. I didn't need to watch it again.
Thank you, Coy. Erika.
Talking about tropes, the Social Network film was kind of like stories, like the love stories shoehorned into that didn't actually happen in order to create a cohesive trope of a film. But we're not debating like the quality of the films. They're all Oscar nominated. I would say that in terms of Hidden Figures, like the performances were so incredible. And honestly, handling racism in like 1960s America without being ham-fisted is something that this movie pulled off, and which is difficult to do. And I honestly think that it is a story that needed to be told. These are both great stories and interesting stories, but they are stories that we have heard time and time again. I think that the most important kind of stories that we can be telling in the 21st century are those that were hidden figures.
Thanks, ERIKA. Bam! That is the end of round number 3. Way to incorporate the title of your film.
I'm like the Suicide Squad.
What is this? Some kind of James Gunn sequel?
Dan Merle, what's going on with the facts?
I mean, facts. This is mostly opinion based. So facts are pretty solid. Nothing really factually.
Those
to
figures
disagree
were
with.
hidden.
There, you solid figures on that one. So yeah, it was really just about the arguments for me.
Cool. Yeah, why don't you roll it into your thoughts there, Dan?
While I do not endorse the shade thrown at the legendary editor Thelma Schoonmaker, who is incredible, it was between, for me, Coy and ERIKA, I think. Everyone made a great case, and man, this was really a very tough call for me, if I'm being honest, because I thought that Coy and ERIKA both approached this question from different angles, and I really appreciated both of those angles, and so it came down to me of like what most fully answered the question. And while I do 100% agree that unquestionably, I think Hidden Figures probably tells the most important story, I think looking at the overall film and the arguments made for the film in total, Coy swayed me more. So I'm going to have to give the point to Coy, but I thought it was a well-argued round all around.
Yeah, I thought it was really well argued, and I thought all three made strong arguments. I wasn't, though, swayed by what ERIKA was saying about not wanting to watch a story about these people, because, I mean, I don't know, this might be my personal opinion coming in, I don't know, but, I think art or a film just has to be evocative. It's going to be about a bad person, it's going to be about a good person. That doesn't make it less, compelling, you know? Even though yours is about the best people.
Very nice people versus terrible.
The best
Just
effect on
horrible
society.
people.
I don't think that makes it more of a movie because it's about good people who did good for
It's
society.
actually shocking that
You and I thought very similar.
a
this
few
whole
years
set.
ago, people would not have thought your guy was as bad as my guy.
No.
Right. So taking that out of it, because that just did not have an effect on me, although so much of what you said did, and you brought up really important points, ERIKA, about the impact of your film and stories like that need to be told. I agree with that, but I agree with Dan. I got to go Coy on this one. Danielle, what does the internet have to say?
The internet says with 47% The Social Network, 28% for Hidden Figures, and then 23% for The Wolf of Wall Street. There were some other interesting, obviously, no one knows how to pronounce biopic, by the way. Biopic. None of you know, but everyone insists that they do.
Definitely not biopic.
I mean, it makes biopic makes sense.
biography picture.
Exactly.
But I have heard
Correct answer.
biopic.
Yeah, I've heard it too, but I don't know why.
People say biopic, but it doesn't make them right.
Biography.
Correct.
Yeah.
Rom-com isn't room-coom. Like it's a romantic comedy.
Well, now it's room. All right, so we have Moneyball was one that Twitter was really into.
Yes.
Catch Me If You Can got a lot of people who were really into it. A couple of people brought up some really good biopics that were made last century.
Yeah.
So, like
Yeah,
someone
that's what
mentioned
we were all looking at that,
like
being
The
like,
Late
oh,
Shift.
wow.
Someone mentioned The Late Shift's a great movie, but it happened.
That's early 90s, right?
Yeah. That prosthetic
Oh, yeah.
chin.
Totally. And
No one picked Ray. I thought for sure I was going to be arguing
oh,
against Ray.
yeah. And
sure.
The Social Network and Wolf of Wall Street are two films that I feel like got robbed for Academy Awards.
I think so.
I think what ERIKA was saying really cut against Wolf of Wall Street, which is he's gross. Like he's a terrible guy, and I think people are just like, I don't want to see or support a movie about a terrible guy.
What were your guys' second choices?
I think it was like I know this is last century, but Amadeus.
All right.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that would not have counted. All right, so you guys, this is a great moment in sports. It's a tiebreaker.
Whoa.
We're all tied up at 1-1-1, so here we go. This works just like the speed round. I'm going to put the tiebreaker out there and then chime in with your answers, and then the first person who answers will get 20 seconds. We'll go around in the descending order that you answered in with 20 seconds each. Then, just like in a speed round, we'll get those 10-second rebuttals. Those sweet 10-second rebuttals. Hoot, hoot. Okay, here is your tiebreaker. I'm going to take Percival out for the tiebreaker.
Of course. Thank you.
It was announced that Rookie of the Year is being remade, the movie Rookie of the Year. Sure. Besides The Sandlot, what's the best kids' sports movie?
Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears.
I'll go The Mighty Ducks.
I was on that fence.
Mighty Ducks. Coy?
Does Miracle count?
No, those are grown men.
Okay. I was a kid when I watched it. Karate Kid.
Karate Kid.
Oh, does that count?
He's in
Yeah, he's in high school.
It's in the
Martial
title.
arts is a sport.
Yep, yeah, it's kid is in the title.
That's hilarious. I love that Erika was asking the age question and Lon was like, is it a sport question?
I said yes, martial arts is a sport.
Yes. It's in the Olympics.
Very
Okay. Great. Okay. So we will go in this order: Erika, Lon, then Coy, and then we'll go back around for 10-second rebuttals. My man Dan Merle is on the clock. Erika, begin when the time begins whenever you speak.
The Bad News Bears. The little scrappy sports movie that kind of started all the little scrappy sports movies for kids. It has the trope, like the coach in need of redemption, the scrappy bunch of misfits. It's even got a girl in it, which is really cool. It has the montage with the music and
Time.
Bad News
Lon.
Bears.
Mighty Ducks, an iconic, beloved movie, lots of nostalgia. A movie that's so well remembered and liked that it actually has a real sports team that got named after it. No other movie at this table being discussed can say that. And just a beloved children's classic and a great performance from Emilio Estevez is often overlooked in this kind of movie, but he does a great job sort of holding it all together. The same.
Time. Coy.
Karate Kid is about more than just sports. It's about becoming a better person, and I love that it's such a focused narrative that it actually spawned a remake now. So the nostalgia is there of both of these movies. Plus, it's about actually focusing. It's about more than just tropes. It's about actually becoming a better human being. And Mr. Miyagi is such an important figure to sport and real life and false narrative. And it's just held up so much that, like I said, the sequel is still as good as the original. Plus, it is about the.
All right, 10-second rebuttals.
Do we do that
Erika.
the same? Oh,
Yeah.
So the Bad News Bears, as I said, was the progenitor of it all. I feel that it did it the most eloquently and with the least problematic elements attached. Mighty Ducks, I prefer the cartoon.
Bad News Bears is definitely the most problematic movie that's been discussed. Full of swearing, not really appropriate for contemporary kids, really out of date now if you go back and check it. And Karate Kid, more about Daniel, more about his life, more about coming of age.
Time. Coy, 10 seconds.
That's the strength of it. It's coming of age and about sport. Yours is about just tropes. Yours is about just nostalgia. All you described was movies that are good. All you described was the fact that people used to like it. Mine is about coming of age and sport film, about being a better person, and it still holds up.
Time. All right. Wow. Three strong choices. So we will pick the one who does not move on. The one who does not move on. Danielle Radford, tell us who doesn't move on.
Don't do that with those eyes in my face. Stop it. All three are doing great speed round, by the way. All three of these really, really good arguments. I would have to say that the one that I connected with the least, or I thought that had the least good argument was Coy with the Karate Kid.
Boom. That's one for Coy. I'll jump in and say, Eric, I felt like your tone on the first round was a little bit like it almost felt like you were listing cliches or something that the film has. Almost like you weren't trying to sell Bad News Bears, but you were almost trying to defame Bad News Bears with like, it's got the coach, it's got, so I don't know. It kind of pushed me.
Because they started it. I'm saying they started it like any other film that has that. It's because of Bad News Bears. It was just Bad News Bears was so good at establishing them.
For me, it was ERIKA. Dan.
For me, actually, Danielle and I are on the opposite side. I would advance Coy because I thought Coy made the strongest argument for why it was not just a good sports film, but a good film in general. So it's between Lon and ERIKA for me as far as who to advance. And I do have to say that Lon had the best counter-argument, which is that Bad News Bears does have a lot of stuff that is not great for kids now. Plus, I kind of felt the same way as you, Hal. The first round was a lot more just saying the things that were in it, and the other two I felt were stronger arguments about why the films were better. So I would also advance Lon and Coy, unfortunately, and I would not advance ERIKA.
All right, ERIKA, you came to fight today, and you damn well did. You did awesome. You took it to the brink. Thank you so much.
You made me get aggressive at Hidden Figures. I felt so guilty when I said, like, 5th grade school.
I didn't want to trash Hidden Figures, I'll be honest. I was like, it's a delightful movie, and show it to your children.
No, absolutely. And ERIKA, I would love to come to you for some opinions during the speed round.
All right. I will weigh in as you see fit.
Thank you so much.
We need more girls in STEM. So just
Have
please.
you read Unbreakable Wasp?
No.
It's
talk about that afterwards.
Sorry.
All right, here we go. Lon Harris versus Coy Jandreau.
Oh boy.
Bad Times at the El Royale opens in theaters this weekend. What's Chris Hemsworth's best non-MCU performance?
Ghostbusters.
Rush.
All right, we have Ghostbusters. We have the racing epic Rush. Lon, you spoke first. 20 seconds begin when you speak now.
Ghostbusters, not a beloved reimagining of the classic comedy, but I think everybody agreed, even the people who didn't like it, that Chris Hemsworth was doing this great, inventive comic turn, a really unexpected turn for him, and a role that isn't really this big, showy comic role. Andy Potts is so great in the original Ghostbusters movie, but it's a very different kind of character. And to show that kind of range, and to bring that kind of energy to it, and to stand out among all those other great comedians.
Time.
Rush completely rests in the performance of two men. Both of those men handled each other impeccably. This is a movie about racing directed by Ron Howard. It wasn't just Oscar bait. It actually earned all the accolades it got. It was underseen, but the whole movie is about one man trying to defend his honor, and he does it in a way that feels almost samurai-esque, but it's about racing. Plus, he's not playing a cliche. He's playing a very nuanced role, and that's something that is the opposite of Thor. It was the most range.
I think physical comedy gets sort of underappreciated a lot. Ghostbusters was a movie that was filled with physical comedy. Not all of it great, but Chris Hemsworth really nailed it. He's a very accomplished slapstick performer that's not always easy to do, and he did it and he nailed it.
Hemsworth played a token cliche in Ghostbusters, whereas he played a character with nuance in Rush. He played a role that was the slapstick comedy, but it only landed because that was the diversity in the film. It wasn't an actual performance. In Rush, he played an actual performance based off a real person and landed that based on a human.
Time. All right. Let's go to Dan.
It's weird. It's sometimes sitting in here hearing two. There's always sometimes there's a fastball or a curveball on one of these, but with this particular one, I heard these two and I was like, well, these are the two. Like, answers that I'm like, those are the two that I would want to fight.
I debated Star Trek because he's so great, man. It's such a small scene.
I think Coy won me over on this one, so I'm going to go with Coy.
All right. That's one for Coy with Rush. Danielle Radford.
These are both, again, really, really good arguments. Wow, this is a great show. Turns out when you get people, the show ends up being really, really, really fantastic. But I have to say I'm going with Lon. I did agree that it was a way for him for Hemsworth to show some range and that he nailed the physical comedy. I feel like I have seen him do acting and other things. That was something that you had brought up. So, gonna go with Lon.
All right, so that's 1-1.
No, wait. Is it? Yeah. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I think I meant overall. Never mind.
1-1. And I felt like I got more specifics from Lon. Yeah, for that reason, I gotta go Lon. So it is 2-1 Lon. 2-1 going into question 2 of the speed round. Kurt Russell's playing a badass Santa in a new Netflix movie. What actor should play Santa, but as a villain?
Ooh. Curveball.
What actor should play Santa as a villain?
John Goodman.
John Goodman.
Well,
Bryan Cranston.
I love these choices. All right, Lon, you spoke first. Whenever you're ready.
I mean, I think John Goodman doesn't need a lot of prosthetics or makeup or anything to embody our sort of cultural idea of Santa, but he can also play such loud, angry, effusive characters. I mean, I'm thinking of him in sort of stuff like Big Lebowski, Raising Arizona, any Coen Brothers movie. So that intensity, that loud, angry John Goodman is the frighteningness of John Goodman, plus him already looking like Santa. It's an unbeatable combo. 10 Cloverfield Lane, John Goodman as Santa.
Coy.
One more.
The duality of this villain is what I'm resting on. Because you believe in Santa. Santa's always been such a positive figure, so subverted those expectations. I can picture the rosy cheeks. I can picture the white beard. I can picture the malice in his heart. He is Santa Claus. He's a man sneaky in your house. He is a man doing horrible things. He has checked that list twice, and he has found you naughty. This is a man who is doing all of the horrible things that Walter White does, but with the goodness...
Time. Rebuttal.
I think with Bryan Cranston, you get it's bad Santa. He looks like a guy, like a dirtbag who would be playing a mall Santa. He doesn't look like the actual North Pole twinkle in his eye, bowl full of cherry Santa. John Goodman does, and I think just the physicality.
John Goodman's lost a lot of weight, and Bryan Cranston plays often wears the fat suit. I'm talking about Hal from Malcolm in the Middle meets Walter White. I'm talking the duality of Santa Claus, which is the interesting thing about the movie. If you just have a scary Santa, that's a horror movie. I want a movie about nuance. I want Bryan Cranston.
Time. Woo, boy, guns blazing. Danielle Radford.
Man, I was positive I was going in one direction, and then that last minute snipe with the Hal from Malcolm in the Middle meets Breaking Bad. I have to go with Coy on that one.
I agree. I'm going Coy. We're locked up in 2-2. We got quite a battle here. ERIKA, any thoughts on this one?
I mean, that round was such fire. Like, I honestly, when he's like John Goodman, I was like, well, duh. But then he said it, but then he's a Bryan Cranston. We're like, oh my god. Like,
yeah.
And just like both arguing for I love both men's comedic, friendly work and like really sinister work. It's amazing. It was just perfect.
Yeah, no, you summed up my thoughts exactly. I would click like and retweet that round.
Tagline: I am the one who decks.
$17. Serious.
If only I thought of
Both actors, by the way, have previously voiced Santa Claus, Goodman multiple times.
Wow.
What
Santa
are the
Claus.
chances?
Yeah, so there you go.
Dan, facts on deck.
He's got
Thank
that. I can
you.
hear him.
Facts
as
on
Santa.
deck the halls.
Yeah, facts on deck the hall.
Don't applaud that.
I mean, I'm here for your puns. Okay. Question number 3 of the speed round. It is 2-2. We are locked up. What a game. The new trailer for Glass just dropped. Which M. Night Shyamalan movie would be improved the most by including it in the Unbreakable universe or the Unbreakaverse, The Happening, or Lady in the Water?
I'll go Lady in the Water.
I'll go Happening.
Okay. Which movie would be best suited in the Unbreakable universe, improved by that? So we heard, sorry, repeat it one more time.
I said Lady in the Water.
Yes, yeah, you said Lady in the Water
he
first.
said Happening.
Okay, Lon, you're first for Lady in the Water. Time begins whenever you speak.
So the Unbreakable versus a universe where comic book stories and fantasy are sort of all rooted in reality, and Lady in the Water is another story where it's all about elaborate fantasy that has roots in reality. So they already kind of exist on sort of similar planes. Plus you could have Cleveland, whatever his last name is, Cleveland, Paul Giamatti from Lady in the Water, a pretty good character stuck in a not very satisfying movie. Move him over, get him out of that crummy movie.
I'm gonna M. Night happening by making the thing that happens to cause the happening a villain. Now in the happening, instead of Earth going after you, it's a villain that is leading the Earth to revolt against the humanity on it. So it ties into the universe beautifully by adding a singular twist, which is what M. Night does, and then it makes all of the slapstick acting work, because then it's an old 70s style villain attacking humanity, doing a very Fantastic Four subplot, and going after the people in the movie.
It doesn't really work because we already know that what's causing the murders or the deaths in the happening is plants. So unless you have like Poison Ivy as the bad guy, it doesn't really make sense. Mine sort of integrates more. Also, what character from the happening do you want to bring over? Mark Wahlberg? Who was he playing? I don't remember anything about him.
He was a scientist. I'm bringing it over to Zoe Deschanel, and it doesn't matter that doesn't work because the world works. Yes, a Poison Ivy-like villain. You exactly said it. I want Mole Man. I want that broad of the world. I want that villain. I want him attacking using the whole Earth. That is a great supervillain plot from 70s comics. It's a Silver Age villain through and through.
Time. Woo! Coy, go and wind him up and let him go. Coy really sold it for me. He specifically incorporated the happening, whereas Lon talked about the worlds, but I got Coy on this one. Dan.
Hal, read me that question one more time.
Yes. The new trailer for Glass just dropped. Which M. Night Shyamalan movie would be improved the most by including it in the Unbreakable universe, The Happening or Lady in the Water?
I think Coy made the best answer to that question. He explained away The Happening as to what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
So I would also go with Coy.
Excellent. So Coy takes a 3-2 lead, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask Dan to do his Mark Wahlberg in The Happening impression right now.
What? No.
Thank you, Dan. All right. It is game point for Coy JANDREAU right here. Lon, you need this to keep her going.
Understood.
Numero cuatro. Walmart is getting into the original content game by remaking Mr. Mom.
Wait, is this true?
Yes.
Yeah, I had to announce it yesterday.
Okay.
New friends. Announced it.
They're doing it as a family-friendly TV show.
Okay.
What movie should Walmart remake as a family-friendly TV show? Remaking Mr. Mom as a family-friendly TV show. Yeah. What movie should Walmart remake as a family-friendly TV show?
Willow.
Small Soldiers.
Willow, Small Soldiers, Lon.
Willow, a beloved movie, a great premise, a great world, and nothing has ever been done with it since that original movie. It's still very fondly remembered, and it would be really great to take it today. It would totally fit into the current prestige TV landscape, appeal to a lot of kids who are maybe a little too young for fantasy as it is on TV right now, like Game of Thrones, but it would be a great introduction to that genre for this new, sort of generation, and it's definitely a world you could keep playing out over multiple seasons.
Small Soldiers is made for a TV show. You can sell instant toys. You've got these two rival factions. You could sell toys at Walmart. It's an instant profitability. Plus, that world can keep expanding. It's Toy Story, but with some slight dark edges. It's also fun because you've got different worlds you could explore. You could bring in more fantasy elements. And plus, you've also got the soldiers. Walmart's very right-wing, so it ties into that world. Plus, it is a movie that didn't have the technology, which it does today. So now you can use today's technology with that story.
Time.
Small Soldiers is terrifying. It was terrifying when it came out. It's still terrifying. It's so violent. It's about war toys and shooting each other and attacking children. It's exactly the wrong message that a brand wants to send, especially in 2018.
Time.
Have you been to Walmart? That's kind of their thing. Plus, the idea of them touching Willow is insulting. I don't want anyone to touch Willow. That is a classic for a reason. Walmart touching Willow would sacrifice the integrity of the original. Plus, Small Soldiers doesn't have that kind of reverence, and it would still sell.
Time. All right.
Hope you guys don't have a Walmart sponsor.
Walmart will take you if you want to sponsor us. Dan.
Yeah, I think the Coy nailed every aspect of that. For me, why not? It's because the question is not only what franchise should be made into a TV show, is why Walmart should make it into a TV show. And I think even with Walmart, the one thing that would overwhelm this is too violent for kids but we can sell a shitload of toys. So I gotta go with Coy.
Okay, that's one for Coy. Danielle?
I have to go with Lon on this one because he got me with its violence and shooting and attacking children, but earlier his idea of having something that brings fantasy for kids that's kid appropriate, I thought that is something that would fit in very well with Walmart's kind of messaging.
So that's one each. You know what? I also got to go Lon on this one. Yeah, we tried to bring him down because we don't touch Willow. That's not an argument.
Touch it.
When does Hollywood ever listen to not touch
into
Willow?
Walmart would sell
Hollywood, how it's Walmart.
Yeah. Walmart.
Lon just tied this thing
Wow,
up.
so it all comes down to this.
Erika, did you have any thoughts on that last one, by the way?
Yeah, I felt that Coy built this world of what Walmart should create very well, but in reality, they would not touch something that had to do with attacking children and children with guns.
Have you seen the movie recently?
The toy section.
But they cannot do it these days and still make money. And Willow would work really well as a show.
Folks, this movie fights is a classic. It is coming down to the very last question possible. Evenly matched fighters all the way. Here we go. A lot of DC news this week. Titans premieres tomorrow. Okay, so let's transition to the small screen real quick here. Ruby Rose first look as Batwoman, Suicide Squad news. So what Suicide Squad member should have a spin-off streaming show on the DC streaming service?
Suicide Squad member.
Yes.
Is this from the movie or any
From the
Suicide Squad
movie.
movie?
From the movie.
Okay. Captain Boomerang. All in. We're all in.
Coy?
Katana.
I love these answers.
All right, we'll see it. We'll see if she's got your back, Coy.
Two best answers.
Lon.
What we want from a show is not what we're going to get from the Suicide Squad movies. So it's a change of pace. It's something funny. It's something more hands-on. It's something more personal. It's a character study. And what more interesting Suicide Squad character was presented than Captain Boomerang? He makes no sense to be in this movie. It's bizarre. Nothing about him is explained. No backstory. There's nothing but room to explore in a humorous weekly half-hour series that kind of just looks into this guy and what his life is like.
Katana's the only one with backstory. I want to hear about the sword. I want to hear about the souls. I want to know how she got her power. I want to see a martial arts show that focuses on martial arts. This can fix the void that Iron Fist was, and it can bring new audience to the DC Universe, and it's an actual interesting character. I don't want someone that's a B-list. I don't want someone that's 30 minutes of fluff. I want a real character, and that is Katana. She has so much potential that hasn't been used. Fix it with long form. Fix it with a show. Don't throw in her movie. Don't waste her again.
How does this show even work? She's killing people and then all of their souls are being trapped in the sword? I don't even get what this movie would be or who Katana is. We get so little information on her. And I think she's silent. Does she even say anything in the Suicide Squad movie? How is that an interesting character?
I want to learn why she doesn't talk. I also don't care about Boomerang because he is one note. I don't need to see a guy drinking all the time. I can watch Mel Gibson. That is an Australian that probably throws a boomerang around. That character's been done. I would rather see Deadshot than that. I would rather see anything than that. Katana was the only character I've ever wanted to know.
Woo! All right.
I apologize to the Australian audience.
The moment, Australia. I'm sorry. I love Australia.
You guys seem lovely. Really nice.
Sydney's great.
Wow. You guys both sold some really cool ideas, really fun shows, but man, at the end of the day, I got to go with the Katana show. So
as long as it's called The Katana Show.
Lon.
That was Coy.
Sorry. My bad. Coy. Katana's Sword of Souls. Dan.
I disagree. The only name for the Katana spinoff would be "This is Katana. She's got my back." Her sword traps the souls of his victims. I think that's the only name for that show.
Coming Thursdays on CBS. She's got my back.
No, it would be on DC streaming. DC streaming.
However, even though Coy did not choose to name it that, I think his rebuttal was very strong. I think he was in a little bit of trouble, but I think his rebuttal was very strong. I don't think the Australians will be that offended, so I am also going to go with Coy.
Okay, that's it. Coy, you take the game. Wow.
She had my back.
She had your back.
Oh man, that was heated. I came out from a must-win every round.
This was a journey. Every question answered. We have no more questions left.
I've got a few.
Nicely done,
Oh,
Coy.
that was fun.
You had your own back today. Please tell us where we can find you. Give some shout outs. Say whatever you like.
You can find me on Collider Heroes every week, also on Marvel Movie News, also on my Instagram where I review things I enjoy. I reviewed the country of Ireland recently, like my activities, things I like. I like to travel a little.
Recommend it.
How many stars?
8 stars of 5. But I like to. I think the internet is about sharing experience, and I think we use it a lot to be critical. But I think that optimism is really tricky. So even if I don't like something, I tend not to talk about it. So everything I put out is quality happiness, because there's plenty of darkness in the other corners of the internet. So if you don't like my overall positivity, you won't like my content. But if you like optimism and lots of lemonade, that's what I'm about. So if you don't hear me talking about something, probably didn't like it. If you hear me talking about it, I loved it.
Awesome. Thank you, Coy. And I love your energy, and thank you for being here.
was a
And
blast,
nicely done, man. ERIKA ISHII, you are also a positive ray of sunshine, but like you're not only positive. You bring the yin and the yang and everything
That's
in between.
right. I've got a dark, messed up center just like everybody else now. But seriously, yeah, I 110% agree with Coy. He's such a pure sentimental. Follow Coy. But also I'm at ERIKA ISHII on Twitter and at the ERIKA ISHII on Instagram. I also put a lot of happy nonsense on there, and right now I have a podcast with Amy Dallin and Travis McElroy called Positivitini, which is about positivity and messages of hope in 10 minutes or less. I think, it just got, I can announce it today. I'm in Maple Story 2. I'm a voice in Maple Story 2, and I do the dub of the Bleach movie that's on Netflix right now.
I watched the Bleach movie on
really?
Netflix. Yeah.
How was it?
It's pretty good.
Okay.
I don't know anything about Bleach at all, so I was like,
It
all
was
right, I'm done with
bonkers.
this.
I was like, what is going on in here?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's out and it's really fun. And find me at Geek and Sundry. Right now, the LA by Night, the Vampire the Masquerade show is Fridays at 8 p.m. You have some time to watch it, to binge the previous episodes before the episode tomorrow night. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, always great to have you. Very super cool. Lon.
I'm not a bright ray of sunshine. Wow. Really, the contrast is just staggering. At LONS, come follow me there. It's pretty negative overall, rather cynical, but I'd appreciate it anyway.
Dan Merle, where do you stand on positivity?
I love positivity. I think
I'm in favor of it. I just don't do it.
some positivity.
This says Dan Merle, producer.
Producer.
He's a great producer. And it's gone.
I'm sorry.
it's gone.
Not to
Procurer.
call you out in the booth.
I'm
sorry.
proud of my producing skills and abilities. I started as an editor, and I'm very proud of it.
JTE, glad to have you back, buddy.
JT.
Love you, brother.
No, positivity, and to put out a little positivity, there are a lot of people down in Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and elsewhere that are very much affected, still being affected by Hurricane Michael, and I would just throw out to select whatever aid organization you feel you would like to contribute to and help out a lot of people, because I feel like that is where we see a lot of positivity in a time where there's a lot of negativity, is that we can all still get together and help those that need help. So, Red Cross, whoever you want to donate to, there's a lot of people that need help right now. So
Damn good message. Thank you, sir. Danielle Radford, you are, like it or not, you're a ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
I dressed all dark today.
Sorry,
Smile, though.
even though you're dressed like Wednesday Addams, you light up the room.
I'm bad.
Angry corgis.
But yeah, you guys can find me all over the internet. You can find me at Danielle Radford on Twitter, Danielle_Radford on Instagram. I'm with Dan. Donate some stuff. I've got a bunch of clothes that I'm going to try to see if I can send down, because folks need clothes, and it can be especially hard for folks who are plus size to get stuff that they could wear to work. So, get ready, Florida. You're about to get some real thick stuff.
Thanks, Danielle. That was so nice. Yeah, it was also kind of really funny the way you said it. I love it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hit me up on the gram and on Twitter at Hal Rudnick. When I was at New York Comic Con this past week, I got to meet some cool people. I want to give a shout out to my friends Logan Wilson and Ben AF, and I also want to shout out Owl Nation. Where my owls at? Hoot, hoot. And also want to shout out Billy Biz and JTE for holding it down. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.